comedy, and of course, a #1 hit on the recording charts.
I wrote Carol a fan letter when I was a senior in high school. I had entered a contest.
For decades, Vicki Lawrence has been celebrated as one of television's funniest and most versatile performers, a natural talent who lit up the Carol Burnett show and later became a household name with Mama's Family. But while fans saw a confident, quick-witted comedian who seemed to fit effortlessly into Hollywood's brightest circles, the truth behind the scenes was far more complicated. Recently uncovered stories, cast recollections, and Vicki's own candid reflections have exposed a very different reality, one where she was treated in ways that set her apart from everyone else around her. From the outside, her rise looked like a fairy tale, a teenage girl plucked from obscurity after writing a fan letter, suddenly standing side by side with Carol Burnett. But behind the laughter and applause, Vicki often found herself navigating an industry that didn't know where to place a girl her age, her inexperience, or her personality. She was younger than the rest of the cast, less connected, and, despite her enormous talent, sometimes viewed as the kid rather than an equal contributor. Insiders recall moments when she was talked down to, overlooked, or quietly sidelined during decisions that involved the rest of the ensemble. Others say her age made her both the show's baby and its easiest target when tensions ran high. Even as she delivered some of the most iconic characters in sketch comedy history, Vicki often felt the pressure of proving herself again and again. What she later revealed about those early years, about favoritism, backstage dynamics, and how she fought to earn respect, paints a picture far more dramatic than fans ever imagined. To understand why Vicki Lawrence was treated differently behind the scenes, you have to go back to the very beginning, before the fame, before the sketch characters, before she was a comedy icon. At just 17 years old, Vicki was an ordinary high school student with an extraordinary dream. What happened next would be the kind of Hollywood story people assume is exaggerated, but in her case, it was all real. Vicki admired Carol Burnett so deeply that she wrote her a fan letter, complete with a newspaper clipping showing how much they resembled each other. By sheer fate, Carol actually saw the letter, and just like that, Vicki was invited to audition. One moment she was practicing in her bedroom mirror, the next she was being handed a spot on the Carol Burnett show, one of the most prestigious comedy programs on television. But being welcomed into the cast didn't mean she was embraced as an equal. Vicki's arrival was unlike any other performers. She wasn't a seasoned actress. She wasn't a trained comedian. She had no Hollywood connections. She was a teenager suddenly surrounded by legends, Carol Burnett, Harvey Korman, Tim Conway, people who had paid their dues, worked the circuit, and built careers through years of struggle. Compared to them, she was the baby, the outsider, and the one who hadn't yet proven she belonged. From day one, the dynamics were different for her. Producers admired her potential but also feared her inexperience. Writers worried they couldn't give her complex material. Some crew members whispered that she only got the job because she looked like Carol. And among the cast, although there was kindness, there was also a clear hierarchy. Vicki was at the bottom of it. She often felt intimidated, walking into rehearsals where everyone else carried decades of professional confidence. Notes were harsher with her. Expectations were contradictory. She was told to speak up but also told not to overstep her place. She was encouraged to be bold but reminded that she was the newcomer. Even when she delivered brilliantly, she sensed hesitation from some around her, as though they were waiting to see whether her talent was real or accidental. And then there was the unspoken rule: mistakes were tolerated from the veterans, but from Vicki, they were seen as signs of inexperience. She later admitted that in those early days, she was terrified of disappointing Carol Burnett, whom she admired like a mentor. At times, she felt the pressure so deeply that she didn't sleep the night before tapings. Meanwhile, audiences watching at home thought she was effortlessly confident, funny, sharp, and naturally gifted. Behind the scenes, though, she was constantly navigating a minefield of backstage politics, respect that had to be earned the hard way, and the undeniable feeling that she was always being compared rather than celebrated. But the true shift in how she was treated, the moment when the dynamics became unmistakably clear, would happen soon after, during some of the show's most iconic sketches. As the Carol Burnett show evolved, so did the roles the cast members played behind the scenes. Harvey Korman was the classically trained actor. Tim Conway was the unpredictable comedic genius. Carol Burnett was the leader, the anchor, the star audiences adored. And then there was Vicki, young, fresh, undeniably talented, but still viewed by many as the kid sister of the group. That label followed her everywhere, especially once the show's most iconic sketches began taking shape. One of those sketches changed everything: the family. When Vicki first read for the role of Mama, it wasn't meant for her at all. It was written for Carol. But Carol couldn't quite find the voice of the abrasive, sharp-tongued Southern matriarch. The character didn't fit her naturally warm comedic style. During rehearsals, everyone tried offering adjustments, but nothing felt right. Then Vicki stepped in. She tried the lines with a different attitude, tougher, colder, more bitter. And instantly, the room froze. She had it. She found Mama. But instead of celebrating her, something uncomfortable happened behind the scenes. Her performance unintentionally overshadowed Carol's, and it created a subtle tension no one knew what to do with. Carol was gracious, supportive, even proud, but others on the production team didn't react as kindly. Suddenly, Vicki was treated differently, scrutinized instead of encouraged. There were whispers that she got lucky, that she stumbled into the perfect character, that she hadn't earned a starring role in a recurring sketch. Some writers even questioned whether she could carry such a powerful comedic presence consistently. Her notes became sharper. Rehearsal expectations grew higher. Where Harvey and Tim were allowed to improvise and create chaos, Vicki was told to stick to the script. If she tried a new line, it was criticized. If she changed her delivery, someone questioned her instincts. Even her hair, wardrobe, and posture were picked apart to a degree others didn't experience. Meanwhile, fans were writing letters praising her performance. Viewers saw her brilliance instantly. But inside the studio, she could feel the shift. She had gone from being treated like uncertain potential to being treated as a problem, someone who disrupted the show's established dynamic. What made it even harder was the double standard. Tim Conway often wandered into rehearsals with half-formed ideas and was celebrated as a genius for improvising. Harvey could flub a line and the room would roar with laughter. Carol, of course, could do no wrong. But Vicki? She felt as though every mistake she made reinforced the belief that she was still too young, too inexperienced, or simply too lucky to be given creative freedom. There were moments during taping when Harvey and Tim would break each other on purpose, pushing the audience into hysterics. But when Vicki broke character, even accidentally, she was scolded for being unprofessional. She later admitted that these double standards chipped away at her confidence, even though she was performing at the same level as her legendary co-stars. And then came the backstage decisions she wasn't included in, script rewrites she didn't know about, blocking changes no one told her, creative meetings she wasn't invited to. She often learned things secondhand, a clear sign she wasn't viewed as part of the inner circle. Still, none of this stopped her from delivering iconic performances. It just made her work twice as hard. It made her rehearse longer, question herself more, and carry pressure the others never had to face. The treatment wasn't openly cruel, it was subtle, quiet, and persistent. And it shaped her entire early career. But the biggest shift, the moment Vicki realized just how differently she was being treated, came when Mama's Family was born. A new show. A new crew. A new identity. And with it came revelations about the way she had been underestimated all along. When Mama's Family entered development, Vicki Lawrence assumed, perhaps naively, that the respect she had long fought for on the Carol Burnett show would finally follow her into this new chapter. After all, the character of Mama existed because of her. The audience adored her. She'd proven, sketch after sketch, that she could hold her own alongside the biggest comedic talents of her era. But what happened next revealed the deeper truth. Vicki had been underestimated for so long that even when she became the center of an entirely new series, she still wasn't treated as its rightful creative force. From the beginning, there was confusion around who truly owned Mama. The network saw Carol Burnett's involvement as essential. Writers felt protective over the material they created. Producers viewed Vicki as a performer, not a creative partner. And Vicki, despite being the face and soul of the show, often found herself left out of serious decisions or spoken to as though she were still the 17-year-old newcomer from years earlier. During early production meetings, she'd watch executives discuss the direction of the show without looking in her direction. She'd pitch ideas, strong ones, and they'd be dismissed, only to be brought up later by someone else and suddenly praised. She was treated like talent, not leadership, even though everything depended on her. Adding to the frustration, many crew members didn't understand how deeply she'd crafted Mama. They assumed the character was just a wig, a dress, and a grumpy attitude. They had no idea how precise the humor was, the timing, the posture, the tone, the emotional layers beneath the crankiness. Some even suggested changes that fundamentally broke the character, and when Vicki pushed back, she was labeled as difficult. She wasn't difficult. She was protecting the very thing that made the show work. And then came the comparisons. Whenever Carol Burnett guest starred, and Carol did so out of love, not ego, people behind the scenes treated her like the show's true anchor. Suddenly, meetings shifted, attention shifted, authority shifted. Carol was greeted as royalty. Vicki, less so. She never resented Carol herself, but she couldn't ignore how everyone's behavior changed around her. Vicki once joked privately that someone could sneeze on set and people would ask Carol for notes about it. There were also pressures Vicki didn't talk about publicly. The show faced cancellation after its initial NBC run. Network executives blamed everything except their own mishandling of the series. Vicki felt the weight personally, as if she were failing a role she'd been born to play. It didn't matter that time slots were changed constantly or that NBC gave it little promotional support. She carried the burden alone. When the show was revived in first-run syndication, Vicki was hopeful things would be different. And in many ways they were. The environment was friendlier, looser, even more joyful. But even then, remnants of her old treatment lingered, assumptions that she couldn't lead, doubts about her creative instincts, subtle comments that implied Mama was just a fluke. Yet with each episode, Vicki proved something they had underestimated for years: she wasn't just a performer. She was the heart of the show. She understood comedy structure. She understood character. She understood timing. And she understood Mama in a way no one else ever could. But the most shocking chapter, the moment that finally revealed why she had been treated differently all along, would come years later, when Vicki learned the truth about her early reputation and the quiet backstage conversations that shaped her career from the very start. As the years passed, Vicki Lawrence's willingness to finally speak openly about her experiences changed the way fans understood the Carol Burnett show and the entertainment industry of that era. For so long, people only saw the laughter, the wigs, the outrageous skits, and the iconic Mama character. They didn't see the pressure, the comparisons, or the emotional weight she carried as a young performer trying to stand out in the shadow of giants. Behind the scenes, Vicki wasn't just fighting for roles, she was fighting to be taken seriously. While the public adored her, some producers and executives still viewed her as the kid who got lucky, someone who needed guidance, boundaries, and even control. She was often left out of major creative decisions, denied opportunities to expand her characters, and made to feel like her comedic instincts weren't fully trusted. The treatment didn't always come from cruelty. Sometimes it was simply the result of a system that didn't see young women as capable of leading or innovating in comedy. But the impact on her self-confidence was real. For years Vicki hid how difficult those moments were. She didn't want to disappoint Carol Burnett, whom she deeply respected, and she didn't want fans to think the show wasn't the joyful experience it appeared to be. But privately, she struggled with feeling underestimated. Other cast members had more freedom, more input, and more leverage. Vicki, meanwhile, had to prove herself again and again, even after the audience made it clear how much they loved her. The emotional toll grew heavier after the show ended. Hollywood boxed her into "Mama" so tightly that she found it nearly impossible to escape. Casting directors refused to see her as anything else. Talented, award-winning, and experienced, she still faced rejection simply because producers couldn't look past a wig and glasses. She fought tirelessly to carve out new roles, hosting talk shows, starring in sitcoms, and reinventing herself, but the sting of being typecast never fully faded. And yet, Vicki Lawrence refused to crumble. Instead, she found her voice. She began sharing her story honestly, not to complain, but to help younger performers understand the industry's realities. She revealed how she had been treated differently, less experienced, less authoritative, less influential, even while contributing some of the show's most memorable performances. And she spoke about how easy it is to look successful on the outside while feeling invisible behind the scenes. Her truth resonated with thousands of fans who had no idea what she endured. Many said it made them respect her even more. Others saw themselves in her story, the feeling of working twice as hard to earn half the recognition. Today, Vicki carries no bitterness. Instead, she reflects on her journey with remarkable grace. She credits Carol Burnett for giving her a chance, celebrates the love the audience gave her, and embraces the legacy she helped create. She has rebuilt her life, her confidence, and her identity on her own terms. And perhaps most inspiring of all, she continues to use humor, the very thing that made the world fall in love with her, to heal the wounds left behind.